And we're back. What's up, everybody? Benja Welldone coming at you live on this beautiful corona-free day. Today is Friday, September the 2nd at 5:39 in the morning. How are you doing? So, this may trigger some individuals, but there's going to be a lot of truth here. And, I feel like it's necessary. It was on my mind, and it's just kind of something I wanted to say. So, here it is. Mental health and personal accountability. Those, especially that first phrase, mental health, that, it's such a serious thing because that's what psychology is. 100%. You could be the most trained UFC fighter, but you have to be mentally strong to really be a champion. Or you could be a guy that's not that physically inclined and not that strong or athletic, and he has the will to fight and the will to win, and they do. With that being mentioned, man, it's a very dangerous, and I look at people that are liars. I'm being completely serious. I look at people that are liars as drug addicts because they have a problem, and you can love that person and hate their problem, right? And it's no different. Accountability, personal accountability. That's without that, you're lying to yourself. You don't have to lie to someone else for them to lie to themselves, right? But here's the thing: if somebody, I saw a video the other day saying that the whole point is blaming everybody else for your problems. Okay, and it's being so creative now. It's just really unhealthy for society as a whole to start to change their vocabulary and change their terms, the way they speak, because they're essentially and psychologically aiding these people in believing and accepting the reality of their lies, which is a false premises. It's not true. Perfect example. If somebody says math is racist, which is a crazy thing to say, okay, or dieting is racist, okay, or there's a new term called, it's called like fit phobia. It pretty much means people, it's any and all people. There's always these new terms to describe people with problems, okay? No physician... Oh, here's another one, an eating disorder. Okay, well, I guess everyone... you could always put everyone in some spectrum of non-accountability, okay? Oh, it's not my fault. I have an eating disorder. That's why I'm as big as I am. No, it's because you're fat. It's because you don't count your calories, and you don't have discipline, which is another root of the whole problem. If you start to create terms for things that are problems, and then you get other people to agree with you, it is more socially accepted, and that is the ultimate danger of that person that is fat and overweight. Okay? The term fat is a pejorative, potentially offensive, but truthful term for someone that is overweight. If you say they're overweight, well, what does that mean? Overweight what? In comparison to their natural body size, what they should be. They also have they have something called BMI, which means body mass index. It's basically a rough measurement to know if you're above that healthy weight based off of maybe like your height and so forth. And people are saying now BMI, body mass index, is a formula created to hate people that are larger people, overweight. It's a really, really unhealthy thing, and everyone, myself included, on a day-to-day basis has to always take accountability and have discipline and take even more accountability on top of that to whatever it is that you may not be doing well at, to do better at. And you may say this is such a common sense, but it's not, because that's when the mental health comes into play, right? If somebody has a mental health problem and their mental health problem is lying, and they create a term, otherwise you're offensive, for why someone isn't good at math because they don't study. I know someone that recently took a test. They took a test. It was an online test, and they got like a 42%. Okay. And then they took a retest, and then they got like a 55%. And I was talking with this individual, and they were so upset. The first time they didn't study. The second time, they took it much more serious. They were paying attention to the questions and the answers. And when I said, "Hey, let me go to your practice test and see how you did," the first practice test they did, they got like a 12. Then they're on their quiz, like leading up to the test, they got like a 20. Obviously, they didn't study, so they have to take personal accountability into why they got that grade. It's not possible to evaluate how hard you've been working if you haven't been working hard. And it's one of the most disturbing and unhealthy things to help, not just, as I mentioned before, an addict, a drug addict, but this drug of the choice being the mind, right? Really? With the lie that they are creating. Math isn't racist. There's no such thing as an eating disorder. Okay. Before everyone gets triggered, I know they have those certain things that some people may have, like an eating, they call it an eating disorder, where they overeat so they can lose food, and they make it come out, and then it's like a way of losing weight, which is extremely unhealthy. Okay, that again is a psychological problem, but that is different than being fat. Okay. Maybe you use donuts and hamburgers as a way to cope with different things going on in your life. Again, mental health. It is not that you have an actual problem. Your problem is psychological, and you're using, as other people use drugs, but you may even judge them for using marijuana or whatever it may be to alleviate how they feel. Okay? That's a normal thing, but that doesn't mean that it's healthy, and it begins with your mind. So, with that being mentioned, I hope everybody, maybe, just maybe one thing that I said, and this could be applied towards your mathematics, it could be applied towards your mathematics, towards your personal relationship, how you treat yourself, how you look at yourself, what you do when you don't, what you don't do, and everything generally as a whole for you, your neighbor, your best friend, and complete strangers in the whole world. It has to get better at, which is the battle of your mind. Okay. It is the psychology of this whole world is slowly turning into a decline, because they're starting to have more compelled speech and forced speech having to do with terms of acceptance for other people's lies, such as overeating disorder or whatever. Math is racist. Body mass index has nothing to do with eating unhealthy foods over and over again. Okay, you could have a body mass index and be extremely healthy. It's just a formula. You know, it's just math, and math isn't racist. You know, when it comes down to personal accountability, just like that individual that took that test, if they gave it 100% and then they got a 42%, if they studied for it, which they did not on their first test, and then they worked on those problems, now they're only working on whatever problems they didn't get right, really. You know what I mean? And it's possible that they could easily do higher, or they wouldn't even got a 42% more than likely in the first place because they didn't study for the first test or the second one. So, anyway, I'm on my way to Jiu-Jitsu right now. I'm here. I hope everybody has a beautiful day. And there's a lot of things that everyone can do personally. And I don't claim to be an expert in anything, but I do know one thing that I always strive for is the discipline of psychology, of my personal mind, and that battle rages on every single day. as it should, with every single individual that wants to go to the gym and has to get out of bed at 4 o'clock in the morning to be on the road by 5 or whatever. You do have the ability. And in my world, okay, everyone has the ability to work harder and to try harder and to do better. And it's a personal choice not to. Okay? And this is kind of like a cluster flare, like a flare gun shooting up in the air, giving hope to everybody who may have a psychological issue going on, which should be relatively everyone, myself included, because I'm always, just because you have a problem, that doesn't mean you don't have an answer. Okay? And it all truly begins and ends with a battle of your mind, discipline, and personal accountability for why certain things are not working out. Mathematically, I look at everything as math. Really? And why they are working out. If you take all the right decisions and add them up and you compile them together, you're going to have a great something at the end, right? And then at the very least, more progress compared to that person that didn't study for their first or second test. So, with that being mentioned, be strong mentally. Your body will catch up to you. Okay? And a strong mind is the biggest weapon that you can have, that any special forces soldier, trained warrior can possibly have by any and all means. Because it's the mind that actually takes the body further. And I've said this before, but I'm saying it again. This is psychological warfare. But the enemy is the new day. And you have to win it every single day. And I can't wait to fucking crush it today. So, with that being mentioned, I hope everybody has a beautiful day. I'm Benja Welldone. Check me out. Crush it. Do great. And give me a challenge. I'm ready to do this shit. Crush it. Peace.